It's right there.
Straight across?
Yeah, that's some swamp there.
Balls. You're a chainsaw over there? You're something.
Someone's over there, man, for sure.
Rick Ness pulled the mats from his wash plant, expecting nothing more than leftover residue. Instead, he uncovered nearly 5 ounces of gold, about $15,000, from what was supposed to be a routine repair that cost money, not made it. That same morning, he received confirmation of a newly secured 3,600-acre claim in Keno, the largest single land holding in the region. But long before that good news, Rick had already been grinding through the harsh realities of the job, trekking through a swamp at midnight, building a road out of overburden with his own crew, and pushing through 14-hour shifts in a season he simply can't afford to lose. At one point, someone joked about paying others to handle the hard work. Rick admitted he'd looked into it, but that's not how his operation runs. This is what a good day looks like for him, and it comes at a steep cost. Before gold mining, Rick made his living as a professional musician. He toured globally, performing in real venues for real audiences, steadily building a career over years on the road. As a bass player, he worked his way up from small gigs to major tours, achieving what many musicians never do, turning music into a sustainable livelihood. Then everything changed after meeting a young gold miner named Parker Schnabel. Rick visited Alaska, saw the mining operation firsthand, and something clicked. That moment reshaped his entire future. He left music behind and stepped into the rugged wilderness of the Yukon, a decision he made over a decade ago. Since then, he hasn't picked up his instrument. Rick openly admits that walking away from music was a sacrifice. It wasn't an easy decision, and he understands exactly what it cost him. But for him, it only makes sense if the gamble pays off. If the gold is real, the claim delivers, and the season brings in enough before winter shuts everything down. This season, his baseline target is 1,800 ounces of gold. That's not a goal, it's the minimum he needs to break even. Every dollar spent on equipment, fuel, and wages must be recovered before the ground freezes. If not, the losses stack up fast. There's no financial safety net, no investors, no fallback plan. Everything depends on what comes out of the ground. Rick's entire operation runs on this pressure, deep in one of the most remote and unforgiving mining regions in North America. He doesn't hide the fear that comes with it. By the time the spending is done, the gold still has to show up. If it doesn't, he risks losing not just the season, but the entire business. Right now, a massive layer of overburden stands between Rick and the gold-rich gravel below. Removing it isn't optional, it's essential. Every day spent clearing it is a day closer to the end of the season, and right now, time is slipping faster than progress. Mechanical problems have made things worse. Rock trucks keep breaking down due to poor road conditions. Instead of dumping the stripped gravel into waste piles, Rick comes up with a smarter plan. Use that same material to fix the road. It's a simple but effective shift in strategy. The overburden being removed is actually high-quality gravel, perfect for reinforcing the haul road. By redirecting it there, instead of hauling it farther away, Rick solves 2 problems at once. He follows a principle he learned early. Moving dirt once is expensive. Moving it twice is unacceptable. Every extra trip wastes fuel, time, and energy. By improving the road with material already being moved, the trucks face fewer breakdowns. Fewer breakdowns mean faster cycles. Faster cycles mean more overburden removed each shift. That leads to quicker access to gold-bearing ground, and ultimately, more gold recovered before the season ends. Rick understands how each decision connects to the next. For him, success isn't just about finding gold. It's about making every move count before time runs out. The new road cuts straight across the mining area, and as trucks roll over it, the surface quickly becomes more stable. Instead of struggling against rough terrain, the trucks begin moving smoothly. The difference is immediate. Turns become easier, breakdowns stop piling up, and the entire stripping operation starts to pick up speed. As productivity increases, a new challenge emerges. To stay on track for the 1,800-ounce target, Rick pushes his crew to work 14-hour shifts. In the Yukon, that kind of shift isn't just long, it's exhausting. The dust never settles, the noise never fades, and operating heavy machinery on uneven ground demands constant focus with no real break. Kyle runs the same haul route over and over, completing a cycle roughly every 20 minutes for the entire shift. Heather works right alongside him, repeating the same routine. By the 10th hour, the cab starts to feel cramped. By the 12th, the brief pause between loads is the only rest they get. Rick understands the numbers. More hours clearing overburden means a better chance of reaching gold-bearing ground before winter. But he also understands his crew. Tired, unfed workers are more likely to make costly mistakes that could damage equipment or put lives at risk. So he takes responsibility for keeping them going. That day, it means handing out simple chicken wraps, food that can be eaten one-handed without stopping work. No utensils, no mess, just quick fuel to keep them moving. He moves from truck to truck, passing food through windows while the crew stays in motion. Each worker only has about 20 seconds between loads. Sometimes the wrap ends up dropped or half-eaten, but Rick keeps handing them out anyway. He knows exactly what those long hours feel like. He's done the same work himself. This isn't just a kind gesture. It's a practical decision to keep both people and machines running efficiently. He doesn't make a big deal out of it, but it's one of the reasons his crew shows up again the next day. By the time the last load is dumped, exhaustion is written on every face. 14 hours are done, but the day still isn't over. Rick's wash plant, known as Monster Red, has just returned from an $18,000 rebuild. It's been idle while the crew focuses on removing overburden, waiting for gold-bearing material. But Rick doesn't want to wait until real gold is running through it to test whether the rebuild worked. Instead, he comes up with a creative solution: a rock race. The crew loads river rocks into the feeder, each person choosing their own stone. The goal is simple. Whichever rock makes it through the entire plant and out the other end first wins. Rick explains the mechanics. Round rocks move quickly through the screen deck, but tend to spin and stall on the conveyor belt. Flat rocks grip the belt better, but move slower through the screen. The ideal rock falls somewhere in between. Everyone makes their pick and watches closely as the race begins. Some rocks struggle right away. One even rolls backward. Others get off to a strong start, but lose momentum later. Then, unexpectedly, Heather's rock, initially overlooked, starts gaining ground. It maintains just the right balance and ends up winning the race. Beyond the fun, the test proves something important. The plant handles every rock smoothly. No jams, no failures, no slipping belts. The rebuild holds up perfectly. It's not producing gold yet, but it's ready to. Later that night, Rick heads out into the wilderness on a different mission. The Yukon bush at midnight is harsh and unforgiving, but he presses on. He's identified a piece of land next to his current operation that could shape the future of his business. If secured, this new claim would expand his holdings to over 3,600 acres, making him the largest landholder in the Keno region. It's not just about this season, it's about every season ahead. But claiming the land isn't easy. Canadian mining law requires the claimant to physically walk the entire perimeter and place each corner marker themselves. There are no shortcuts, no one else who can do it for him. Rick checked for alternatives early on and found none. The only way to secure the claim is to go out there in the dark and do it himself. Rick gathers Kyle and Jason, loads up the GPS, and the three of them head out into the Yukon night. With headlamps on and boots laced tight, they begin their staking mission in the dark. The first 2 corner posts go in smoothly. The terrain is manageable, and the GPS is guiding them without issues. To keep spirits up, Jason jokes about asserting dominance over the local bear population on his first day in the Yukon. Rick plays along, and the humor helps lighten the mood. Out here, in the middle of nowhere at midnight, a little laughter goes a long way. But things change when they reach the 3rd corner. According to the GPS, it lies straight across a swamp, no way around it. The water is dark, still, and deep. Kyle doesn't hesitate. He steps in and the water quickly rises past his boots. With every step, the ground beneath him shifts unpredictably. Hidden roots and fallen branches make the footing dangerous and uncertain. Rick and Jason stay back on solid ground, watching as Kyle pushes forward, carrying the post and equipment through the swamp as quickly as he can. Then, in the distance, a chainsaw suddenly roars to life in the middle of the night, in the remote Yukon wilderness. Everyone freezes. That sound could mean another crew is nearby, possibly staking the same claim. And in this business, timing is everything. Whoever files first gets the land. There are no second chances, no credit for effort. Rick doesn't wait to investigate. He immediately calls for speed, and the crew pushes forward. Kyle makes it through, and they set the third post. Without slowing down, they head toward the final corner, even before Kyle is fully back on dry ground. The terrain gets worse. Thick brush blocks their path, forcing them to push their way through. Branches snap and fall, and the uneven ground makes every step a challenge. What started as a simple nighttime hike has turned into a physically demanding struggle. Finally, they reach the last coordinate. The fourth post goes in. Just like that, they've completed the full perimeter, 3,600 acres of rugged Yukon wilderness, on foot, in the dark, through swamp and dense brush. There was no easier way to do it. The claim is officially staked. The next morning brings a different kind of surprise. Heather places a jar on the table in the cook shack and tells Rick what's inside before he even picks it up. Gold from the pre-wash. Even before weighing it, he can tell it's heavier than expected. Inside the jar is nearly 5 ounces of gold, worth around $15,000 at current prices. This gold came from a routine pre-wash cleanup done before rebuilding the wash plant. The crew had spent just a couple of hours scraping the sluice mats to collect any leftover gold before taking the plant apart. It's standard procedure, and no one expected much from it. Rick lifts the jar, immediately feeling the weight. He asks Heather to confirm, just under 5 ounces. He quickly does the math. 2 to 3 hours of work brought in about $5,000 per hour from something that was supposed to be a routine maintenance step. The wash plant rebuild cost $18,000. But thanks to this unexpected gold recovery, that cost drops to roughly $3,000. A repair that was supposed to drain resources nearly paid for itself before the plant even started processing fresh pay dirt. It's a perfect example of the unpredictable nature of mining. Most days, the numbers work against you. But once in a while, even cleanup residue can turn into a major win. As Rick processes the moment, already thinking about what it means for the season, his phone buzzes. It's an email from the claims office. The new claim has been approved. The paperwork went through before anyone else could file. The land is officially his. Over 3,600 acres, making it the largest single land holding in the Keno region. This isn't just about size. The new claim sits right next to ground he's already mining. That means the operation can expand without relocating, and there's a strong chance the same gold-rich geology continues into this new area. It sets up not just this season, but future ones as well. In a single day, everything comes together. Rick's team secured a massive new claim, recovered $15,000 in unexpected gold, and improved their operation by rebuilding the haul road using overburden. 3 major wins, none of them planned. To top it off, Kyle pulls out a makeshift crown and presents it to Rick. The crew has been watching everything unfold, the hard work, the risks, the late-night staking mission, and they celebrate the moment by calling him the King of Keno. Rick laughs, a genuine, unguarded laugh. He knows the nickname will stick, because in just one day, he managed to rebuild a road, push through grueling 14-hour shifts, test and validate an $18,000 wash plant rebuild, recover nearly $15,000 in surprise gold, and secure thousands of acres of new mining ground. It's the kind of day that defines an entire season. The title fits, whether Rick likes it or not. But behind that title is the real cost of chasing gold. Rick Ness gave up his life in music to be here. He stepped away from racing, and more importantly, from years of time with the people who've been waiting for him to return. On the other side of that 1,800 ounce mark is the life he put on hold. Music, racing, and time with loved ones. Every long shift and every late night staking mission is a step toward getting that life back. Mining isn't the end goal for him. It's the price he has to pay to reach it. That future version of his life only exists if he gets there. And getting there means enduring 14-hour workdays, hiking through swamps at midnight, and spending over a decade away from the things he once loved. Every decision he makes out here is tied to that future. Fixing the road, testing the wash plant, staking new ground. It's not just about running an operation. It's about investing in a life he can't access yet. But Rick is just as clear about the risks. He built this entire operation on his own. No partners, no safety net. If a season falls short, it's not just a setback. It could mean losing everything. The money, the years of sacrifice, even the 3,600 acres of land he fought to secure. All of it depends on whether the gold comes in before winter. If it doesn't, the entire operation could collapse. Rick doesn't dramatize it. He just states it as fact. Today, things went his way. The road is stronger. The plant is working perfectly. The claim is secured. And sitting on the table is $15,000 worth of unexpected gold. But none of that guarantees success, because the 1,800 ounce target doesn't care about a single good day, and the season is far from over. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the Timefold channel and leave a like.